lovely to be here today, and thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to be talking about something that I'm really passionate about, and I hope that from this next half hour or so, you guys will take something away that you can maybe put into your own environments, in your own clubs, so that we can start providing the opportunities for young children to have a go at our sport in a safe and friendly, fun way. Today's session, we're going to have a quick look at what activity should look like for our under 11s, and how our role as coaches, how can we put that into practice and make sure that they're having a good experience. And I'll also go through starting blocks as well with you a little bit, so you can see how these resources really support with that. So for a little bit of context, I think hopefully a lot of you are a little bit aware of it now. James alluded to it earlier, but it's our Welsh Athletics' offer for physical literacy in the younger age group. It's around getting children active. It's around providing them with fun, exciting opportunities and inclusive opportunities to take part in our sport. And we want children joining our clubs, your clubs, to have those key fundamental skills. But they need to be working on these skills before they join us at what is traditionally 9, 10, 11 years old. Starting blocks will allow our sport in Wales for the very first time to have a full pathway of activity for children aged under 9 upwards. And this is an area that, as most of you might know, that traditionally we've not really worked in, but it's an area that is really, really important. And our roles as coaches is crucial in creating those environments for children. So starting blocks is fun, it's exciting, it's inclusive, and it embeds that physical literacy journey, which is a lifelong journey, and it starts from often as soon as a child can walk, really. But we want to make sure that our sport can encompass that, and we want to be giving the children the confidence, the motivation, lots of opportunities to be able to excel in this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to unshare my screen. Oops. I just wanted to do a really quick poll just to see where you guys are at really in terms of if you're delivering for this age group already. So it's anonymous. I won't be able to see who selects what, but I'll just launch the poll now. And if you could just take a second or two just to complete that. So the first question is, who's currently working with this age group? And then do we feel we've got the right support when working with this age group? Just gives me a little bit of background around what you guys, who you're working with now, and it can help shape what I discuss a little bit. It's great, lots of answers coming in, fab. So lots of us already working with this age group, which is fantastic. Hopefully I'm not going to be teaching you to suck eggs through this session. Hopefully you will pick something new up as well. And lots of you feeling like you've got the right support, but maybe some of you looking for a little bit more support. So hopefully this resource is going to be able to help you with that. So that's great. Fab. Thank you for taking part in that. I'll just close that one down. Okay, so if I can ask you now, I'm going to try and get you guys to do a bit of work. I don't want to be just talking at your session. If in the chat function, you could just pop in a few keywords around what you think it should look like. What do we think activity for this age group should look like? And that can be drawing on your own experiences, what you've seen, what you'd like to do, what you're currently doing. Just a few quick words into the chat box saying what you think the activity should look like. That would be fantastic. Inclusive and fun. Thanks, Finn. You're listening already. Well done, Finn. Good fun. Play and enjoyment. Short, fun, engaging sessions that cover a range of fundamentals. Fab. Thank you, Lucy. Variety, learn, brilliant. Yeah, we want them to be varied sessions, not just doing the same thing every week, because that's boring for us as deliverers, but also for them. Social and lots of games, brilliant, Alison. Yeah, absolutely. We want it to be game based, don't we? Fantastic. Focusing on games, incorporating ABCs. Yeah, developing the social skills. Everyone can do stuff at the same time, no one waiting around for your turn. Catherine, I think you might have seen what's coming up in my presentation. Brilliant. That's fantastic, thank you. Okay, I'll stop for you guys there, but I think what we can see is you were all saying it's got to be fun, it's got to be engaging, short, sharp sessions, game-based. It's brilliant, well done. Right, I will pull my presentation back up again. Oops. Okay, so most of you have come up with a lot of these, but this image just kind of explores a little bit of that. So we want it to be fun, we want it to be awesome, we want it to be developing those social skills. Children very much need to be included in sessions where they feel like they're a part of it and they're empowered to be a part of it and they're enjoying it. And as a lot of you have mentioned there, play and exploration is perhaps one of the best ways, because we know that children often learn best through this way. And quite often they won't even realise that they're learning something new because they're just having fun and playing a game. So it's a really good way to introduce some developmental and develop fundamental movements if you can do it in that sort of an environment. So as a lot of you were saying, it should be fun and inclusive, not focused on performance. Because as soon as that becomes performance driven, children can quickly lose the confidence if they're not perceived to be good at something. And as we know, our sport is a late specialisation sport, so we don't need them to be focusing on their performance from that age, because the likelihood is the performance of the children won't matter until they're in their late teens, really. So we want activity to be child-centred and focused on their individual developmental stage and not their age. Brilliant. Okay, just gonna move on. So a lot of you mentioned about it being game orientated, so that's fantastic, and this resource will go through in a lot more detail around how you can use those games. And we as coaches now should be seeking out ways to deliver activity to them in an engaging and appropriate way. So we don't want to just be teaching them what I would perhaps call traditional athletics, because they're not mini adults, they need to be doing different things. We should be challenging ourselves to come up with ways that we can introduce athletics movements into games. So, for example, I like this example, but walking like a bear, for us as coaches, we know that that's working on introducing good posture, it's working on their core mobility, it's working on their introducing that sort of correct squat posture. But for a 5-6-year-old, it's just a bit of fun. They're running around growling like a bear, and they don't realise that they're working on those fundamental movement skills that they're going to need for when they get to sort of 15, 16, 17 years old, and they're starting to load their bodies with those movements. If they're not getting them right at this age group, if we can't start introducing it to them, well, by the time they are coming to load it, that's when we're going to start getting problems. So all of this is around us making it child-centred. It's all around creating positive experiences, so that these young people can become adults that choose to be physically active, that will stay in our sport for longer. And if we can do all of this, we'll have more resilient, skilled and happy, confident children who will have that basic underpinning of the movement skills needed for athletics, which is only going to benefit our clubs and our sport. And I know Paul's session after following mine is going to look a little bit more into those movement skills. So this requires us to be creative, and for me that kind of comes down to some of the planning and looking at how we're going to manage a large group of children to make sure that everybody's engaged. So Catherine, I'm going to start talking about what I think you were mentioning in a minute. How can we introduce those fundamental movements such as the push, pull and rotate into those game environments? So how many of us are quite used to seeing a long line of children on an athletics track or wherever your facility is, waiting to have their one throw at something or waiting to have their one jump into the sandpit? So if we look at this picture, you can see that the child who's actually jumping, she's got a big smile on her face, she's having great fun. The kid in the line behind her is looking raring to go. He's excited because it's his turn next. But as you look further back down the line of this photo, you'll see that there's some children starting to probably become a little bit mischievous, starting to not be so interested, because they've got to wait their turn, and by the looks of this photograph, quite a long wait until their turn. So I remember learning this on one of my coach education courses many moons ago now, around this sort of idea of, do we want to have 2 lines of 15 children waiting to have a go, or 15 lines of 2 children waiting to have a go, and how can we always be changing the way that we set up our sessions for maximum opportunity and maximum involvement for the kids. So this second photograph now, I know there's less children in it, but it was the best photo I could find to emanate what I'm trying to say. By changing the way we've set up this task, so instead of having just one child having a run up and into the sandpit, we've got 5 children there lining up along the length side of the sandpit to have a go at standing and jumping into the sandpit. So I think just by changing the way you've set that organisation up, it is automatically allowing for more children to have a go, and to not be stood around waiting. And I think these images here can show how you can simply alter that to better organise your group for maximum engagement. And again, remembering that children aren't mini adults, and just because we as adults or senior athletes, we might do a long run up into the sandpit before we jump, that doesn't mean that at 5 years old they should be doing that. If you had a 5-year-old doing a run up to the sandpit, they're probably going to run out of steam by the time they get to that board. They'll stop and then they'll jump, and that kind of, because they've not got that those skills yet to be able to get the full benefit of what a run up allows you, they can't use that power yet as we would. So it kind of defeats the object of getting them to do that. Why would we need to get them to do that? So again, this is how we can change things. There's so many games that would work on that speed and that power that they wouldn't realise. For example, a simple tag game will be working on their speed in a different way, in a game-based way that allows them to develop that skill, which then when they're older, they can apply it to the long jump run-up. So we're making it more appropriate for them to work on a different part of the skills matrix, if you like. So what I would perhaps suggest doing then with this is thinking about ways you can creatively introduce components of what you need, components of athletics into the games. And I think that's something we've tried to do with the Starting Blocks resource. So what I've just been chatting about there really is the STEP principle. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, and it's a really useful acronym in coaching to think about how we're going to alter certain things. And in this example, how we're going to alter things to make them more child-centered. So how can we change the space, the task, the equipment, or the people? And in this particular example we've just talked through, it's how we've changed that task and rearranged the way that we've organised the people to be able to do it. Fantastic. Is everybody with me still so far? Hope you are. So how can Starting Blocks support all of this then? So there's 25 game cards, which are all user-friendly and they're inclusive, and they build in various competencies from what we call the physical literacy framework, which has been developed by Sport Wales, to give you guys as coaches key things that you can look out for in each of those competencies. But the cards also include movements that will work on the key athletics components, if you like, so that push, pull, rotate. And they'll all offer a differentiation for each of the game cards via that STEP principle to make it child-centered and to offer ideas of how you can change things. I'll talk a little bit more about those in a second. We've also developed some challenge cards. Now, these are designed to be a fun way, a fun, non-threatening way to introduce competition to young children. So we don't want it to be about who's the best at something. It's about how can they personally improve on their own skills to get better at a certain movement. And I think it's important that children have that competitive element, but I think we need to be quite mindful as deliverers as to how we introduce that. And I think this is quite a friendly way in doing so, particularly with that young age group. And then finally, we've also got, as part of this resource, a skills passport, which has got 6 levels to complete. It's linked to the new curriculum, so hopefully it can support primary school teachers as well. We've developed a specific health and wellbeing competency on there, which some of you mentioned about that sort of those social skills and teamwork and that kind of thing, and that kind of feeds into it that way as well. The idea of the skills passport is that it gives you as a deliverer, it gives the child, it gives the parent a bit of an idea of how they're progressing and what skills they're doing well on and which ones they perhaps might want to work on a little bit more. So it gives you a bit of a progression update, if you like. And once they've completed all of those levels, they'll progress on to the next level. And the idea is it gives us as coaches a better understanding of their sort of full fundamental movements, how they're doing in each of those movements. For clubs that do want to be part of Starting Blocks, or coaches that want to be involved, there's also a really good management, administration and booking system attached to this. So that kind of eases the burden on club volunteers, as well as we're also incorporating a orientation workshop as well for coaches and deliverers, so that they can understand this resource further and be able to deliver it confidently. Okay, so how do we go about applying this into practice? So through those game cards, we can introduce fundamental movements that are linked to that hierarchy of competencies developed by Sport Wales in a game format. The games each work on those set competencies, which are all colour-coded on the card and are complemented by those challenges and skills passport. Now, I've talked about this a little bit this morning already, but we as coaches have got a really big part to play in that child's experience. So for many, this might be their very first experience of sport outside of the school and outside of the classroom. So we want to make sure that it's a positive one. One where they do feel included, where they feel like they are achieving, and where they're having fun. And that's our real responsibility, I think, with this age group, to make sure that they aren't frightened and that they feel like they're achieving and enjoying the sessions. Their experience of sport and physical activity at this age shouldn't really be about winning races or being the best in their group. And it shouldn't be performance driven. It should be about learning these new skills, developing the confidence in these movements so that they can have positive experiences and so they can go on to be better, more robust athletes. And the Starting Blocks ethos is all around that, really. We quite often talk about stage, not age, in coaching, and that's something that is really important, I think, for this age group as well. And I'm sure Paul might talk a little bit more in detail around this in his session, but it means that the child can work on their own developmental rate and not be pigeonholed into that, oh, well, you're 7 or 8 now, you should be able to do X, Y, and Z. So I think this resource really helps to be able to get coaches to think about that and to offer ways to differentiate for those children to feel like they are achieving and they're working at their own individual rate. As you'll see in a moment, all of these resources do include handy tips on how you can differentiate the session using that step model. So it makes being stage not age makes it more child-centered automatically, because you're deliberately looking at that one child and thinking how you can change things to make sure that they get a level of success, which obviously will make for a better experience for them, but also a higher quality session for them too. And finally, the skills passport also supports with all of this. It offers a tangible way for these children, parents, and us as coaches to see how they're progressing through that skills matrix. And it also provides a useful tool for coaches to understand those areas that maybe do need a little bit more work on. And you'll be able to, on my next slide, you'll be able to see there's a code at the bottom of the game cards that it's a key code that links to a certain skill. So you can see, oh, actually, Fred, Frank and Molly aren't doing very well at particular skills. taps its coordination, I'm going to try and make sure that in my next session I focus on game cards that have more coordination in them. So you can really start to tailor it to the group in front of you. And then, of course, wrapped around all of these, as you've all kind of picked up on already, is fun, and making sure that it's all fun and that the children are enjoying it. So I'm just going to go on to the next slide. So this is an example of one of the game cards, and I hope it's clear enough for you guys to see. So what I'd like to talk about here is, well, you can see at the bottom left-hand corner the code I was just talking about. So on this particular card, A, C, and M, which is agility, coordination, and movement skills. So there's a key where you can see the traffic light system on this card, and it says look for, and that's a guide for you as a coach to think, okay, so I should be able to see children changing direction whilst running in this game format, and you can look at those points to see what you should be observing within that group. But what I'd like to explore is the step bit, because that's the bit I'm going to get you to look at in a moment. So on each card there's a bit of a progression idea, and there's also the step model as well to offer you some extra support in terms of making it more child-centered. So for example, this is going to be, I'm going to work through an example with you, and then I'm going to get you guys to do a little bit of a task. It's a lovely sunny evening in May. Hopefully we'll get some of those soon. And we've got a high number of children that have popped down to the track session tonight, approximately 30. But we haven't got our usual volunteer support because maybe they're having a barbecue because it's nice and warm. So it's just me and one other coach assistant. And we've also got a new child joining us for the first time tonight who's got a visual impairment. From an earlier chat with his parent prior to the session, and then again with the child when they arrived, we had a chat around what his level of sight was, so I could make sure that I adapted the session to be as inclusive and as centered around him as I could. So following that discussion, I knew that having a larger, darker shaped equipment helped with his particular impairment and his vision. So I've added into this particular game card some larger, darker spots on the floor that were easier for him to see. And I've also buddied him up with another child that he knew from school, in his class, so to help with his confidence, so he felt less nervous about being in a new situation, but also someone that can then help guide him if he needed. So that's a very quick example of how I've adapted the equipment there, and also how I've done something with the people. The other aspect of this example was there was a lot of children and only 2 of us. With that many children, I'm sure you're all aware, it can quite often feel as though you're herding cats. So what we did is we would set up 2 separate playing areas, half the children in each playing area. I could oversee the one session and the assistant coach could look over the second group. So it's safe and they're all doing the same thing. So me as the lead athletics coach can oversee everything, make sure everything's happening safely. But I know that my coach assistant can get on supporting the one group whilst I look at the other one as well. So that's a very quick example of how you can sort of use that as a way to adapt your sessions. What I'd like to do now is pop you hopefully into some breakout rooms. I'll just stop sharing my screen because I don't think I can see the breakout rooms when I'm sharing screen. Right, okay. So what I'd like you to do now is I'm going to pop you into some breakout rooms. I'm going to have about 8 minutes or so, depending on time. And what I'd like you to do is I'm going to give you each a little bit of a scenario. I think I've got 6 rooms. And I'd like you to have a little discussion around the scenario I give you. How would you adapt it to make it as child-centered as possible? So I'm not too worried about what the actual session is, what you deliver in, just what sort of things do you need to start thinking about to make sure that we're focusing on a child-centered approach. So I'm going to give 2 rooms the same task. So room 1 and room 2. Room 1 has got Emma MacArthur in. So if you're in Emma's room, Emma, shout out. And room 2 has got Barry Edwards in from Athletics. So Barry, room 2, if you're in his room, you 2 rooms, I'd like you to look at, you've got a group of 15 children with mixed abilities and one child who has got some learning difficulties. So how will you make that child-centred for those people? I'll also pop this in the chat as well, so you can refer back to it, because I know I'm giving a bit of information here. Rooms 3 and rooms 4. So if you're in room 3 with Alison Hurd, Alison, make sure you let everyone know you're in that room. And room 4 with Catherine Collins. So Catherine, give a shout out as well. I'd like your 2 rooms to have a look at, you've got a group of 20 children and you've got some disruptive children in there as well. What are you going to do to kind of solve that and make sure that it's still being child-centred? And then the last 2 rooms, room 5, who we've got Laura Jones, so Laura, and in room 6 we've got Finn. Your 2 rooms, please can you have a look at having, you've got 20 kids and one child is using a wheelchair. So how are we going to make sure that they're still included in the session that you decide on? And with that in mind, don't worry, they don't need a race chair to be able to take part. They can use their day chair if that's possible as well. So I'll pop you into some breakout rooms. I'll also put this into the chat. Any questions, please let us know. Are we ready? Yeah, looks like it. Fab. Welcome back. Glad you've all made it back from cyberspace. Okay, so if is there anyone that would like to feedback? If not, I might just pick on a few rooms. If not, so anyone that would like to feedback, if you can just unmute and shout out. If not, no.
Shall I start the ball rolling?
Thanks, Finn. I was going to pick on a member of staff, if not anyway.
So. We did get slightly sidetracked with return to athletics, but we talked about, because we had games with 20 children and 1 wheelchair user. So we said you can pretty much adapt any game, something like Shark Tag, as long as you just allow enough space and kind of brief everyone beforehand. You can pretty much adapt anything to a wheelchair user. So and it can pretty much be inclusive fairly easily. So other than that, I don't want to steal anyone else's thunder. So but yeah, just adapt everything. I don't think you're limited at all by
no, absolutely. Yeah, and hopefully having a discussion in the breakout rooms. I think that's quite often where we get a lot of the valuable knowledge from other people in that room. So hopefully if those people that were a bit unsure, having that discussion, being a part of that discussion, will hopefully give them a little bit more confidence as well. Thanks, Ben. Anyone else want to feedback? If not, I'll maybe go to Barry's room, room 2.
Yeah, we had some good points in regards to sort of the mixed ability aspect in terms of that's kind of what a day-to-day session in regards to the ability. In our game or activities, we always had the fun, enjoyment, inspiring, those kind of key aspects to facilitate confidence and motivation. We looked at the progressions and regressions. So with the mixed ability group, we were just making sure that the cards that we've got additional ideas on how to make it easier or harder to suit the needs of different abilities. We mentioned the inclusive aspect, and we also mentioned the equipment. So not going too carried away with fancy equipment, keeping it basic, looking at agility, balance, coordination, and those physical literacy and underpinned activities. That's what we had.
Fab, thank you, Barry. Did you have a chat around anything, if you had any children in there with learning difficulties, what you might need to think about doing in terms of your delivery? Was there any thoughts around that? I appreciate you didn't have very much time.
I think we were going on to that, but in terms of learning difficulties, I think I run a junior academy, and we've brought into the Starting Blocks project, so we're going to be looking to develop even further. But with learning difficulties, it's kind of just utilising with the activity we've got some with some serious learning difficulties, but we utilise the parents and carers and get them involved in the sessions. But as a group, we didn't quite get that far, sorry.
No, that's okay. There wasn't an awful lot of time. And then I think Catherine Collins, and you had your hand up. Have you got anything else to add?
Well, we had the disruptive children, So we thought that we needed to find out why they were being disruptive. Are they bored, not engaged in the activity? Have they been dumped there by their parents on a child minding basis? But generally, you've got to get them refocused on the task. You've got to get them engaged, perhaps give them a task to do. And if there's a group of them, can you separate them out into the various teams? If you're playing cats and dogs, for example, can you have them on opposing teams so that they don't mix together and make it twice as bad as it was previously? But it's all about keeping them engaged and giving them something to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I'm very much preaching to the converted in this session, because it sounds like you guys have all got some really fabulous examples already. So that's really good. Thank you for sharing that, Catherine. Lynn, very quickly, have you got anything you'd like to add in?
It was just the same, actually. There was very quickly, it was the disruptive pupil, young athletes. It was, introducing plenty of variety and keeping them busy, not having them standing around too long, listening to you, giving out instructions. It's just being on the go, separating them. Plenty of reinforcing the positive behaviour rather than focusing on the negative. Always praising the children who were listening well. Hopefully it would rub off on the others then, and just be aware of where you're standing as well, because if you stood near the disruptive pupil as you are giving out your instruction, all other eyes are focused on you, which automatically makes all other eyes focused on them as well. So it doesn't give them a chance to be stood at the back, messing around and so on. So it's just a kind of being aware of where you're standing and focusing on the good behaviour, giving them responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, very good thoughts there, Lynn. Thank you for sharing. Just because I can talk forever, so I'm just going to quickly come on to my last slide before Zoe kicks me off and mutes me. I hope you found those discussions useful, and I would encourage you to keep reaching out to other clubs that are doing work in this space to find out what they're doing and how you can learn some top tips from them as well. So just to summarise this session, as you're all very much aware, these sessions should be fun and work on introducing those key fundamental movements. We need to be offering lots of opportunities to young children, not only in our sport, but in everything, but also making sure that they've got lots of opportunities to try different things. So as Lynn's saying, giving that variety to them is really important. Lots of opportunities to develop and work on those skills in that game-based environment. Hopefully the Starting Blocks resource will help structure your coaching approach and can introduce young children to athletics. And we've had a little look this morning on using the STEP principle as well to help make those sessions more child-centred. If anybody has got any questions, I don't think I've got an awful lot of time, but I will be sticking on for a few minutes. So if you want to pop them in the chat and I can reply that way. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've been able to take something away, or if not, I've just reaffirmed that what you're doing is good practice, and I'm happy with that.